This show is sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com, a place to be inspired by other women. Hey, everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping that you'll be inspired to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. So my guest today is Michelle Johnston. She is a best-selling author. She has a new book out, The Seismic Shift in You, 7 Necessary Shifts to Create Connection and Drive Results. She is also a top executive coach, and she, in her free time, she's professor at Loyola University. So welcome in, Michelle, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be one of your guests and talk about powerful journeys and powerful women.
Oh, I love it. And you're one of them.
Oh, thank you.
So let's start with the book, Seismic Shift. I love the sign and behind your head there. What inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so I was honored. My co-author is Marshall Goldsmith, and he's my mentor. And Marshall Goldsmith, if you don't know him, to your listeners, he's the #1 executive coach in the world and #1 global thought leader. And so I'm so honored that he is my mentor. And we both had been invited to the Top Thinkers 50 Awards in London. So we were there in 2023, and he wrote the foreword to my first book. So I'm there with he and his wife. He's 20 years older than me, and he was getting a big award at this gala. And we had listened to all of the top thinkers in the world that day. Wow. And I was struck because the topic was how in the world, in our world of leadership, how are leaders going to compete against AI and technology? And every single one of the top thinkers in the world said pretty much the same thing. We as humans, we as leaders have to lean in with heart and humanity. And that is the only way we're going to differentiate ourselves and be great leaders in light of the technological advances. And I looked at Marshall and I said, Marshall, if that's not a seismic shift, I don't know what one is. We need to write a book about that. Will you be my co-author? And Jill, I can honestly tell your listeners, I don't think I would have had the courage to ask him to be my co-author unless I'd had 2 glasses of champagne.
Well, that helps.
I had the champagne courage, shall we say.
Yeah.
And so he said, yes, let's do it. And I remember waking up the next morning thinking, am I about to write a book with Marshall Goldsmith? And then I started doubting myself. As powerful women do, we occasionally doubt ourselves. And so at breakfast that morning, I just wanted to remind Marshall that he said yes. And I said, I just want to remind you, are you in? I said, because I'm going to go back to my dean in the College of Business at Loyola, and I'm going to ask for a year sabbatical to write this book with you. And he goes, do it. So that's how it all began. So just in December, I launched with him our new book, The Seismic Shift in You.
Wow. We'll talk about, you also have The Seismic Shift in Leadership, right?
Yes. And that was my first book published in 2022.
Okay. So that he wasn't involved in that one. So
he wrote the foreword, but that was all me. I wrote that book. Yeah.
So what I like about this is that you really, it's a guide. I would say it's a guide, right? And you're trying to help leaders of every industry make that connection with, the people that I want to say they serve. They're the people that are under them and their team members and their team leaders.
Yeah.
But why is there such a hard time of it?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just gave a speech yesterday, the top 50 big leaders at Pan American Life, and they're the leaders of their own country for Pan American Life. So the heads of Mexico and Honduras, we were having this conversation that it really has to be intentional for you as a leader to show up and have this connection-driven mindset. It is not a natural thing. One would think, and this is why women, I feel, are the most poised to be the best leaders right now, because I do think we have natural gifts of connection.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. Most of the men that I coach as an executive coach have had to struggle. They've struggled with that because for years they were told, just like women, we were told to kind of suppress those natural tendencies to, it's got to be business, business, results, 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 task, 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 next, next, next. Don't spend too much time getting to know your people. Well, that's completely false. That is not how you succeed today. So that first book was written because I, as an executive coach, I was on the front line seeing these old school command and control, authoritarian culture of fear leaders getting pushed out of organizations, and leaders who led in a very different way, empathetic, building a culture of connection. They were getting rewarded. And that's when I had that lightning bolt moment, because I never thought that I would become a best-selling author. It really was not in my plan.
Right.
And I said, oh my gosh, I have to write a book about this. There's a seismic shift going on and we need to lead better with connection. And that's why I wrote my first book.
Oh, I love that. But why do you think they struggle so much?
So I think that because it took a while for women to enter the workforce, it was a almost military like old boys network, locker room type of culture for a long time. And then the roles that women had were more subservient in the secretarial. So men were leading in a very, very aggressive kind of shame and blame type of I don't know why. I don't know why, but that was the model.
Yeah.
And then women came in and tried to shake things up for a little bit, but then there were only so many places at the top. And so what we found is that women, when they first entered leadership positions, they ended up acting and emulating like the men. So we didn't really get the permission to be women.
Right.
And I remember when, and I write about this in my first book, as a young female professor in the 90s, when I started teaching in the MBA program, I didn't have enough confidence in myself to truly be a feminine woman who came into the MBA classroom and was nice and kind and collaborative. And I only looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, all of the professors that I knew, and I had been in college for years getting a PhD, right? All the professors that I knew were very stern and very strict, and they were like military drill sergeants, and they knew everything, and they lectured on hours, and they were not anyway interested in creating connection. That was not the model. And so for a long time, I didn't feel comfortable being and playing to my natural strengths until my dean, Pat O'Brien, brought me in the office and said, do you want to become a tenured professor and have a career here? I said, yes. He said, then you've got to do some things differently because your faculty evaluations are awful.
Wow.
Because I was trying to be like the old men.
Yeah.
And I so wasn't. And finally, it took me years. Jill, I wish to goodness that I could tell you. And then overnight, it took me years to really have the courage to say, you know what? I want to play to my natural strengths. And it was a big risk to walk in and all of a sudden say, I'm going to do everything differently. I'm going to be your coach. I'm going to cheer you on. I'm obnoxiously enthusiastic at 8 a.m. For these lectures, and we're going to do this together. And I'm going to create a collaborative environment where you feel seen, heard, valued, respected, appreciated. And I'm going to turn this higher education model upside down. And I did. And it was then and only then that I got faculty member of the year. And then I got promoted, and then I got tenure, and then I got full professor. Only when I gave myself the permission to truly be the feminine version of myself, because it aligned with who I was. Before that, I was a fake. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't.
Right. Yeah, but how many people do that? So many people do that.
So many people do that. So then when I lifted my head up and I thought, okay, now I'm it's publish or perish. I lifted my head up. I had tenure. I had this full professor. I said, you know what? It's now time. I want to be an executive coach because I want to help others who were trying to be and fit in and trying to be somebody else like me. And Jill, you're absolutely right. I looked around and I couldn't believe how many leaders were trying to be perfect, whatever perfection meant to them, their boss, their old coach, and they were just emulating these behaviors that were not them.
Right.
And what happens, what I found is that perfection equals disconnection. So if you're trying to be perfect, that means you're disconnected from who you are because you're not authentic.
Right.
And then it has a wall up between you and your audience, you and your people you're trying to serve and lead, you and your family. If you're always trying to look perfect and sound perfect, you're just not real. And people are like, what's up with you?
So true. And that's so good. I think across all industries and like you said, in your family and your friends and oh my goodness. It's so interesting when you talk about that, because I think about it, when I was reporting at TV News Report in the 90s too. And it was very different then though. It was like we were all dressing, I feel like men outfits too, male outfits,
Yes.
You know what I mean? With the big shoes that like the big gross thick heels and those shoulder pads.
And I remember when I first brought in a wardrobe consultant when my first book became a bestseller, and I thought, oh, I need to go make speeches about this. And I said, come and look at my wardrobe. And I'll never forget this, Jill. She goes, are you depressed? I said, no. Why do you ask that? She goes, all I see are black Ann Taylor pantsuits. That's all I had were black and Taylor pantsuits. They all look the same in various shades.
You had the notch collar, you had the shawl collar. Right? Oh my goodness! Yeah,
and now I wear. We were both to your listeners. Jill and I are wearing white today, and we were laughing because we don't usually wear white.
Right.
I have vivid when I give speeches. Just yesterday I had a vivid pink dress. Yeah. I have vivid orange dresses. Vivid blue dresses. I wear anything but black now because I'm really leaning into my femininity and people are celebrating that. And one of the quotes I heard about women is that sisterhood is our superpower. And it is time for us to build each other up. And recognize that sisterhood is our superpower and stop having that mindset of scarcity that there's only one position at the top for a woman, because those are no longer, those days are over. We all can succeed at the top. I believe there's room for all of us and we have to support each other.
I agree with you. Because for so long though, I think we were taught, right, that to compete.
Because for you to be the rock star that you are now and that you were on news, there were very few of those positions, very few.
Yeah. Well, but it was a cutthroat industry, right? And you didn't know who was your friend, right? And you did, there were times, listen, I was not always the nicest person, like I felt like I had to, move over, I'm coming through. And that's harsh. When I look back, I'm like, oh, God, I'm completely different now. I don't know if that comes with age and just a different time. But I want to talk to you about, how you changed your whole style of teaching, too, because I have 3 kids in college, 2 just graduated. But they talk about some of should I call out the universities? I don't know. But they say some of their professors are really jerks. Just jerks. And they're like falling asleep. They're like, this is the worst. This is the most boring class. They don't even ask any for input. They just want to hear themselves talk. They're rude. They're mean. And it's just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I believe that the higher education, academia needs a major seismic shift. And so I took a big risk this past semester. And in my MBA strategic communication class, I said, look, this is what I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach the 7 shifts so that you can create more connection as a leader. I said, and I'm going to teach it and I'm going to model the way. So I said, we would meet every Monday night from 6:30 to 9. I said, we are going to begin in a connection circle. And I'm going to ask you a connection question. So one night might be on a scale of 1 to 10. How are you doing really? The next Monday night might be, give a shout out of appreciation, or what are you grateful for? And we would begin class like that. If the weather was pretty, the school, Loyola University New Orleans, is right across the street on St. Charles Avenue of Audubon Park, which was designed by Charles Olmsted, who designed Central Park. So this big, beautiful park. And if weather was nice, I would say we are going to go on a connection walk, and we're going to do our class outside, and we're going to be shoulder to shoulder, going deeper with connection and figuring out what does success look like to you. In any case, this was a big risk, Jill, because academics don't teach like that, right? And I wanted to show them that we could do it differently. And I knew all of their names. I cared about them. We created trust, safety. We built these collaborative teams. At the end of the semester, they were like, I don't know. They said to me at the very end of the semester, we've never met our classmates in any other class. We've never had a professor know all of our names and who actually cared about us. And we had no idea what it was like to build connection. Thank you. And I thought, what a shame that I'm the only one doing this.
Yeah, it really is. Especially now, where I feel like we're all on our phones and we're all on social media, and yet we're more disconnected than ever. Oh
my gosh. The first night of class, they all had their computers up and their phones over. And I said, this is going to be a technology-free class. You cannot be on your laptops and you cannot use your phones. And of course, we're all addicted, and it's hard in the beginning, but then the reward and the payoffs are so great. Yeah, I read 2 studies this week, Jill, that really got my attention. One is companies that are really pushing their people to utilize AI in everything. Those people are collaborating less with their colleagues, and they're feeling even more disconnected at work because they're relying on AI rather than their colleagues to bounce ideas off of. And then that remote workers, we've known, right, that remote work was great during COVID because it allowed for flexibility, and a lot of people held on to that. And I'm a big advocate because I want working women to have flexibility to pick up their kids and maybe go and see a play and then work a little bit later at night. So I think flexibility is fabulous. And there are ways that you can do it. For those who work totally remotely from home, what the research is finding is that they're really lonely and disconnected, so much so that now they're not even going out at night. So they're completely withdrawing from social lives. And that's hurting our health. What the research has found, Dr. Vivek Murthy was our U.S. Surgeon General under President Biden, and he wrote a book called Together. And what he found is when we are disconnected, isolated, and lonely, we die at a 60% higher rate. So it's a 60% increase in premature death, a 32% increase in heart attacks, and a 30% increase in strokes. So what he said is disconnection is actually killing us. So there's gotta be, that's why I wrote this book. There's gotta be a seismic shift. We as individuals, as humans, no matter what type of leader we are, we could be the leader of our home, the leader of the PTA, the leader of a baseball team, the leader of a Fortune 500 company, the leader of a nonprofit, whatever you see yourself, you are a leader. And we have to show up differently in the world to build more connection because it's killing us.
Right. Be the change, right? Be the change.
Be the change.
Yeah.
Be the change.
Talk about I don't want you to give away your whole book, but talk about some of the 7 shifts. What each one?
So when Marshall and I, you'll appreciate this. So when I came back to New Orleans and took the year sabbatical to write this book, we started, I flew up to Nashville. He lives in the community where Taylor Swift and Reese Witherspoon live. So he's done very well. So I would fly up to Nashville and we'd brainstorm. What are the seismic shifts, right? What do we exactly need to do differently? And because he's been the #1 executive coach and he was a multi-million flyer, what is it called? When you have millions and millions and millions of miles on all the airlines. He has seen and he has coached the top of the top of the top of organizations. And he said, Michelle, what's really sad is that many of them get to the very pinnacle, the top, and they look around and they realize that they did not focus on relationships, and they just focused on the next promotion, the next goal to accomplish, to succeed, to get the bigger car and the bigger house. And then that they're at the very top, and they're going through a divorce, and their kids don't like them, and their people think that they're a jerk. And he said, so what I want us to do is let's have the first shift and advocate that the first shift has to be your mindset, to go from what to who. So that when you do get to whatever success means to you, whatever rung of the ladder is, you are not looking around going, I have no friends and my family doesn't like me. So that was our first shift, is a shift in perspective, to move from the what, that hamster wheel of more, which leads to emptiness. So take your foot off the accelerator of what, and shift to who are the most important people in my life, which leads to the second shift, which is shift your priorities. So if you look at your calendar, which is the third shift, if you look at your calendar, does your calendar reflect the most important people in your life? 95% of audiences I speak to look at their calendar and they say, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Because what they find is they say that their family's important, but their family's not on their calendar. They say that their health is important, but they're not on their calendar. So we're getting it wrong. We're still on this hamster wheel of what, next, more. And until we make those shifts, shift in perspective, shift in priorities, the most important who is you. You have to come first to be healthy, to embed in your calendar time, dinners with your family, vacations with your family. I just got back from a beach week with my family. Why is this news? It shouldn't be news. It's news because my 80-year-old dad, my 60-year-old brother, and his wife came down for my book launch party, Jill, in November in New Orleans. I threw a big connection party. And they showed up, and I had a fireside chat. And I was talking about the book, saying, our calendars do not reflect our priorities. The way that we're building out our calendars today don't. And until you embed rituals with the most important people in your life, it's not going to happen. So afterwards, we went out to dinner, and I said, you realize we as a family, we are so tight knit. We love each other. We see each other every year. We've never gone on a beach trip together. Because it's just every year we're like, oh yeah, we should do that. But we never make it a priority on our calendar. So we just got back from the beach. Woo!
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. I haven't either with my family. I have, right? It's just like everyone, you say it. How many times how many times you say to your friends, we need to get together? And it doesn't. So I have all of my audiences, I have them. I'm like, get out a sheet of paper or take out your phone and write down the most important people in your life, both personally and professionally, because the days are over of, oh, well, this is my professional calendar. This is my personal calendar. Oh, I'm in my work mode. I'll be in my play mode. No, it is one you, one calendar, one day, one life. And so make sure that your family members, make sure that you, and then make sure the most important people at your work are on your calendar, embedded in rituals, in rhythm. So making sure you have those one-on-ones with your direct reports. You have them scheduled every week, every other week. Make sure you have those team meetings scheduled every week, every other week. Make sure, and I was out in California working with these top physician leaders, and I said, what's your number one complaint right now, just you as a person? And they said, my kids say they don't see me enough. They don't see me enough. I said, well, how can we solve that problem? And so we looked at the calendar, and they all had these 7 a.m. meetings. So they didn't see and it's an hour commute in California. They didn't see their families in the morning. I said, how many of you all, you're at the top physician positions in your hospitals, can move at least 2 mornings a week, that 7 a.m. meeting? They're like, we totally can. And we don't know why we haven't done it. So it's taking control of your calendar and saying, okay, what is keeping me from spending time with the most important people in my life? And here's another thing, if thinking not just personally in your family and having dinner and going on beach trips, thinking professionally about the most important people in your professional world,
they get their feelings really hurt when you just cancel those one-on-ones, or you cancel those team meetings, or you don't even try to embed the one-on-one in the team meetings. You just say, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. You're not going to keep the top people in your organization if that's your mindset.
You know, I think it's so, as I listen to you and gosh, I'm making changes now. I'm redoing my appointment books, right? But, you know, I feel like everyone struggles and to make that work-life balance, right? But at the end of the day, like you're saying, like I think the question too is why? Why are you doing it? And I think most people do it because at the end of the day, they're hustling, they're grinding because they think it's going to bring them happiness, right? And joy.
And yet, doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. And that's what we're finding is in the human flourishing literature, human happiness, we're finding that we all really were sold a bill of goods. We thought that getting to the next promotion and getting the salary, the raise and the bonuses and the fancy car and the fancy homes, that we would be so happy. And it's not bringing us happiness. And that is a fact. What we're finding, the longest study at Harvard, what they studied, gosh, it's been going on, for 80 years? Every single metric of how much money did you make? What level did you get in your company? What exactly is your occupation? What is your relationship with your families? What are your hobbies? And they found that the happiest people at the end of their lives, when they were in their 80s, if they were so lucky to live to 80s, the happiest people had the strongest social connections. It had nothing to do with how much money you made. Usually the happiest people were teachers, were very embedded in their community. They did things because they felt like they were making a positive difference in somebody else's lives. So we have been fed and sold a bill of goods when it comes to happiness.
Yeah, I agree with you. Wow. Oh my gosh, that is profound. What you just said is so deep, and so I think so many people can relate to it. And now, as you said, have to make a shift. They have to make a shift.
We have to make a shift. And I will share with you, Jill, and your listeners, this is not something that has come easily to me. I'm one of those high achieving type. I don't think I'm type A, but I'm definitely on the hamster wheel. Like, go, go, go. You know, what's next? Like, I want to keep achieving, accomplishing. And I was writing the second book 2 Christmases ago. And my daughter was in college, and she came home. And she knocked on my studio door, and I said, I'll be down in a couple hours. And I came down, and she was gone for dinner, and I thought we were going to eat dinner together. And she came home that night, and she said, Mom, I've been home for 2 weeks, and I have barely seen you. Oh. Aren't you the expert in connection?
Boom. Oh, it's always the kids, right?
And you know what? I'm so grateful that she, hit me where it hurt, because I had not shifted my calendar to take the fact that she was home for the holidays. I just kept doing what I was doing, thinking, oh, I'll see her. Right. And she has her life, right? She's out every night, and I'm working every day. And so then I said, holy smokes, you are right. You are my main priority. It's just the two of us. I was like, what am I doing? And I took the rest of Christmas off, and we had a delightful time. But so I'm saying we're imperfect and creatures, and it's hard, and you can do it, and it has to be intentional. You have to make the effort and say, okay, in this next month, what are my priorities for the next month? And is my calendar reflecting that?
All right. We're going to pause here. There's so much more to talk about. Michelle Johnston, boy, I don't know about you, but I really, I feel like I need to take a breath and be like, I have to go over all of that, because I feel like I don't make enough time for the important things. Because you always keep putting it off. So, all right, there's so much more to talk about. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. We'll be right back after the commercial break. Help me get the word out. Share this with your friends, because this is really good. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Conway. Thank you so much for listening and loving the Secrets of Powerful Women podcast. If you could, please like and subscribe to my channel on Spotify or iHeart, Apple Music, Audible, and YouTube. It will help me expand the show and bring you more incredible women who are inspiring you with their stories. I am so grateful for your support, so thank you. Keep listening and share this with your friends. We're changing the world. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Michelle Johnston is here. Michelle, I want to talk about you as a professor in college, but I also want to talk so many questions about leadership. And in your opinion, because you've talked to so many and you've worked with so many, what makes a good leader? Like, what are the characteristics of a good leader?
Yeah, so I want your listeners to do me a favor, except if they're in the car driving. I want them to close their eyes, and I want them to think about their best boss and what made them great. And so open up your eyes, and typically what we're hearing, we do this. I actually run the Saints Leadership Academy.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we do this exercise every time with all of the leaders, and then we have them write down their characteristics of their favorite bosses on sticky notes, and then we have them put them on the wall. And what you find is the best boss cared about you. The best boss made you feel seen,
Yeah.
heard,
Yeah.
valued, respected,
Yeah.
and appreciated. And those are the 5 dimensions of connection. So none of the sticky notes had words like super, super smart, great at Excel spreadsheets. None of them, right?
Yeah.
And so the best bosses are those who really care about you. They inspire you. They believe in you. They develop you. They think that you have something that adds value. They see your strengths. They see you. They hear you. They appreciate you. They respect you. So that's why those 5 dimensions of connection, I try in all of my coaching and my speaking, is to help leaders recognize that they are in this incredible position of power where they get to develop this next generation of leaders. And you do that by showing them that I see you, I care about you, and what can I do to support you? What can I do to develop you? Are you in the right place for your skill set? That's leadership. Leaders should be coaches. They should not be military drill sergeants, right? They should be there to build you up, to support you, to point you in a direction, empower you, and say, you go, I've got your back.
What your most difficult, let's say, client that you were coaching, was there one who really stands out to you, who really like kind of fought you on all these ideas? Yeah.
Yes, this particular client that came to my head he got pushed out of the organization. He was a shame and blame, culture of fear, jerk boss. Yet I didn't know it because he put on such a great show. He was perfectly coiffed, manicured, dressed, not a hair out of place, shiny white smile, the shoes polished, and he could get up. I can't remember who trained him, but he was just this incredible speaker. And so I would work with him and think, you are amazing. And he would bring me in to be on stage with him, and we do this work together. And it wasn't until one time he said, Michelle, he goes, I want you to work with some of my people. I want you to conduct a town hall and see how they're doing because I want to develop them. I said, God, you're amazing. Yes, of course. So I sit down and finally get his direct reports alone. Holy smokes. They presented a very different version than the one I knew. And they said that in a meeting that he would find one Excel spreadsheet, what is it called? Not a box, a cell. And if you got that wrong in a meeting, he would go after you. He would create this competition among everybody behind their backs. Well, so-and-so wants that promotion. Do you want it? There's only one place at the top. So he just created this competition instead of collaboration. He would shame you. It was just, I had no idea. So yeah, the jerk boss, the shame and blame, the culture of fear. What happened was the only reason I was able to get the attention of the CEO to push this guy out is because his direct reports came to me and said, our health is suffering. We have talked with one another, and we have PTSD. We're anxious. We can't sleep at night. Some of us are overeating. Some of us are undereating because every time we show up for a team meeting, we don't know who he's going to go after. And so jerk bosses, I'm on a mission to get rid of jerk bosses.
Wow. Well, what was the reaction to his boss, from his boss?
He didn't want to believe it because he
Yeah.
was such a high performer.
Yeah.
And again, he persuaded me that he was a
Yeah.
frickin' rock star.
Right.
And I didn't know until we took the veil off and I created a safe space for them to tell me the real situation. So look, the way I was able to convince the CEO that he's got to do something is he had just rolled out all of these new values of empathy and collaboration and great listening. And we
Yeah.
see you, we respect you. And these people are like, this guy goes against exactly every value. And that was that. And the CEO saw that. So yeah, but it was hard to get this guy's attention that what he was doing was really hurting his people,
Right.
because he had a boss who did that. So he thought that's what leadership looked like.
Oh my goodness. I feel like everyone listening was like, oh, I know someone like that, right? The player, the one who
Yep.
can play the role pretty good and is really a jerk, you know?
Yep.
Michelle, talk about, I mean, you're a college professor. Did you always want to teach? Did you?
No. Okay. Funny, Jill, you'll appreciate this. When I was in my PhD program at LSU, I went to get my PhD kind of kicking and screaming because I'd already found my dream job. As I shared with you earlier, I was recruited to New Orleans to be an intern for a consulting firm. And I was in my master's program at Auburn. So I went to Auburn and LSU, more SEC. And when I came to New Orleans and found this job, I was like, I found what I wanted to do. Oh my gosh, I love consulting. I love training. It's very much like teaching, but you're teaching corporate people, right?
Right, right.
And so I was so young. I was 24 years old. And the executives in the company said, you really need a PhD. And I was like, I don't want a PhD. I just finished my 2-year
Yeah.
master's program. I just wrote a thesis. Why do I need a PhD? They're like, trust us. It will serve you well. Go up the road. I had a 2-year residency, so I had to leave New Orleans, go to Baton Rouge for 2 years. And what's funny about this story is if you had asked anybody in the PhD program, oh, did Michelle Johnston want to become a professor? They would say absolutely not.
Wow.
All I wanted to do was be a consultant. So I come back, ABD it's called, all but dissertation, and I'm working for the consulting firm, and on the weekends I'm writing my dissertation. In order to make more money, I decided to teach a class, business communication, at Loyola. I also taught a class at Tulane. And right when I got married, I was 30 years old. And the consulting firm, the executives came to me and said, we're moving. We're going to move to Charlotte. Are you interested? And I said, I just got married. Wow. And no. And the dean at Loyola at the same exact time said, Michelle, we want to make you an offer and you're going to be a full-time professor. And I said, well, okay, here I am.
Wow. Wow. And did you always want to do that? So what did you want to do when you were young? You just wanted to be in consult. Like, what was the dream of young Michelle?
Okay. Well, so I'll never forget. We lived in our first house was a townhome in Reisterstown, Maryland.
You've lived everywhere. My goodness.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
DC, Maryland, New York, everywhere, Detroit, everywhere. And my parents got me a little chalkboard. And I remember being in the basement and inviting my friends to come be my students. And I was always the teacher.
And there it is. Yeah.
I definitely wanted to be a teacher. I just didn't know that I wanted to become an academic. I really loved the training and consulting world. So I've been able to do both. So once the consulting company left New Orleans, I then was a professor and then lifted my head up, as I shared earlier, once I gained tenure. And then I've been conducting workshops all over the country. So I got to do both. So it's a win-win.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you're still teaching. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
I know. I still teach in the MBA program. I only teach one class a semester now. So, and like I shared with you, I do it very differently than,
I bet it's packed. I bet it fills up very quickly, that class.
You know, I'm very fortunate. Yes, I'm fortunate.
Yeah. Well, I think you're teaching things and skills that is so needed, and it's beneficial in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So, all right. So tell us, I mean, I know you spoke about the leaders and why they struggle and things like that. I mean, and I think across the board, anyone listening to this, I think you can say, let me take a look at my life. Let me reevaluate my priorities right now, right? Because it is so important. And I say, and I agree with you, I think mindset is the the number one. It's the make or break. It can create success in your life, and it can create quite the opposite. So have you ever struggled with your mindset? I know you said you doubted
gosh,
yourself.
yeah, I was on that hamster wheel. What, next, more, right?
Right.
So we briefly, and I'll share to kind of wrap up with your listeners. So we talked about that first shift of mindset from the what to the who. The second shift is shift your priorities so that the most important who is you. The third shift is your calendar. Shift your calendar so that it reflects the most important people in your life. The fourth shift is shift your meetings so that they're more connection driven and you're not talking at people, you're talking with people. The next shift is shift your conversations so that you're having honest, real, genuine conversations and you're not just avoiding the tough topics.
Yeah.
I call those keystone conversations. During yesterday's presentation with Pan American Life, I had them in little groups. I said, okay, think about a recent project you just started and tell the person about it and what success looks like for you for that project and how you can be at your best. And I said, how many of you all actually have had those conversations with the people on the project? We haven't. I said, exactly. How weird is that? We don't have these important keystone conversations whenever we begin a project. And I'll again throw myself under the bus. So when I took this year sabbatical to write this book with Marshall Goldsmith, I'm about 3 months into my sabbatical and I can't get on Marshall's calendar. As I shared, I had flown up to Nashville. We had brainstormed ideas. He was surrounded by many, many different assistants and I could not get on his calendar. So I'm making up all these negative stories of, does he not want to write this book with me?
Sure.
Is he having regrets? Like, what's happening? So I finally had the courage. I picked up the phone. I said, hey, Marshall, you know, I've got this year sabbatical. I'm so excited about writing this book with you. Are we going to meet every week? He goes, what? No. He goes, no, I agreed to write this book with you because I believe in you, Michelle. I believe in your brand. I believe in your content. You write the book and tell me when you're done, send it to me. And then I will come in with my many assistants and I will add in my Marshallisms to lend even more credibility to each of your chapters. I said, oh, so you don't really want to meet much at all? He's like, nope.
Wow.
And I wish that I would have had that keystone conversation in the very beginning. Instead, I just had this idea like, well, and so people as humans do that. So that's another shift, is have those keystone conversations. Shift number 6 is shift your language, because so often our language minimizes connection and it's just task and business and it's not building relationships. And one of the things that your listeners can do is replace the word but with and. Because but, when you say, Jill, this has been an incredible podcast, but I wish we had gone deeper. It discounts everything the compliment that I just gave you. Instead, Jill, I've really enjoyed this podcast and I can't wait to go deeper next time. So replace the but with and that builds connection rather than minimizes it. And then shift number 7 is shift your energy, because leaders now are experiencing what we call Zoom zombie. So many leaders are in charge of Zoom after Zoom after Zoom, and they're deflated and wiped out. And what they don't recognize is they can own their calendar. So put more time in between the meetings, delegate being in charge of meetings to somebody else, right? So you don't have to be in charge of the agenda, the connection question, all of those things. And then you can show up at your best and actually bring your energy, because even though we're thousands miles away, Jill, I can feel your energy.
Right.
I can feel how cool you are, right? I can feel your intellect, your curiosity. Like, we pick up on people's energies even through a screen.
Yeah.
So as leaders, we need to recognize the power of our energy, and B, build our calendars that allow us to show up as the best versions of ourselves.
Oh, I like that. So, I mean, Michelle, what does success look like to you? What?
So I'm
personally?
rethinking that
Yeah.
now that I've written 2 books and they're both bestsellers. I'm so grateful. And I've thought a lot about, it's not about money. It is about making an impact. And I get excited when I'm making a difference in other people's lives. And the second I can see that I'm making a difference in your life and the listeners, I'm good. So I really only want to do things now that make a positive difference in other people's lives.
Yeah. I think that comes with age too. I think, right? I mean, you've been through, like you said, the hustle culture. I think we all live that. And then you get to a point where you're like, it's not so great to live like that anymore.
Right. It's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not healthy. So what is the future for you then? What's
Yeah,
future?
so Marshall said that he would write the book with me if I then do that, pay it forward for somebody else. So there's a woman, Amy Landry, and she wants to write. Oh, Jill, this is perfect. She wants to write The Seismic Shift for Women.
Oh.
And I told her that I would be the Marshall to her like Marshall was to me.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful. Oh my God. Now, but you're going to give that name to her? The Seismic Shift? The Seismic
She'll
Shift?
be a part of my series, The Seismic Shift.
Wow. Wow. That's impressive, Michelle. That's impressive. Wow.
Yeah,
I think that's well needed. And I think that's been happening now. I think finally, it's finally coming around. So I want to talk about, before we go, the importance of, as you mentioned, over and over. And I think it's so hard sometimes for people, the power of connection. As you said, you can feel people's energies over the Zoom calls, which you know what, I'm still not a fan of, I gotta say, even though we're doing this kind of over like a Zoom like thing. But like, what do you think of going back to like old time phone calls?
You know, that more, I can't believe you said that, Jill. More and more the leaders I work with are saying, I would much rather just talk on the telephone with somebody because the pressure is off of that's what we're finding is so depleting at the end of the day. We're feeling so much pressure on these calls to be on. And we don't really understand it yet. However, we know it's very depleting from an energy standpoint. So a lot of my leaders are telling me that what they used to do at the end of the year, they used to send out calendar invites to their direct reports and say, hey, here's a Zoom invite. We're going to meet twice a month for one-on-ones. And now they're telling me they are asking each one of their direct reports, how do you prefer to meet? Do you want to meet over coffee if you're in the same city? Do you want to meet telephone? Do you want to meet via Zoom? And most of them are saying no to Zoom.
Yeah, it's so true, because I was connected with the CEO of a big communications company, and I said, and she was like, you want to do Zoom over email? And I was like, can we just do old school, like phone call? Like, I can get people's vibes from that. Like I feel like I can read them almost better when I'm listening and not distracted. But she was like, so when we finally spoke over the phone, she's like, oh, I like this. It's some old school. And I was like, I like it too. I like it too. And right, you're not busy like, how am I sitting? How am I, oh, I'm making a weird face when I'm just listening or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very different. I feel like some of that stuff has to come back.
Yes, and I think it is for sure.
I agree with you. So what advice, well, I mean, this primarily women listen to this, midlife women. What advice would you give, Michelle, to women who, are either maybe are that leader in that office and they're like, well, I don't know how to start this. Like, I don't know how to have people see my softer side when I'm so like, Devil Wears Prada, the big movie now, like the number 2, that's the whole thing. I mean, she was the nightmare boss, right?
So, was she a jerk boss? Yeah, I just saw that in the movie theater. And so here's my advice for the women listening. Number 1, give yourself permission to be feminine. If that's your thing, give yourself permission to show kindness and care about your people, because that's what's going to not only attract the top talent, that is going to retain the top talent, which is going to lead to productivity and financial results, which is what the whole hustle, which we used to be a part of. We want those financial results. However, we can do it in a way that actually is positive and it's fun and there's levity and laughter and and you care about one another and you're building kind of a work family, you want to do that. So give yourself permission to show up with your natural strengths and show your people that you care. And I would say also that better connection equals better results. So begin your meetings or end your meetings with some sort of connection question. Don't just dive into the agenda and here's what we need to accomplish. Thanks for being on this call. Say, you know what, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing, really? Or what's your highs and your lows today? I want to get to know you as people, because all of the research is showing that because we're so addicted to our phones, it's really taking away from deeper personal connection. So we have to be more intentional. And the only way we're going to do that is by embedding it into our meetings. So don't be scared at all to say, I want to begin our meetings kind of going deeper to build that trust and that collaboration with the team. And I don't want it just to be all agenda all the time. So those are my pieces of advice.
Oh, I like. But what about employees? First of all, I love all of that. Some employees, especially the younger generations, I feel like they don't go deep that much, you know?
Which is why it's on us to show them. And that's another thing we're struggling with is remote environments. How do you build corporate culture in a remote environment with these young people? Young people, I believe, need to be in an office to see people like us and how we run meetings and how we build connections and how we show we care and how we live the values and how we build culture. So I do think that hybrid is good and flexibility is good. And I think we also need face-to-face time in the office for human connection. I do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you there. All right, that's it for us. A big thank you to Michelle Johnston for coming on the show and sharing, obviously, your incredible story. Where can people, A, buy your book, Michelle, and B, contact you if they need to?
Oh, thank you so much, y'all. Thank you for listening. Amazon, obviously, or any of your bookstores, and michellekjohnston.com. Holler at me, contact me, and I give lots of speeches, I coach, and I write books, so I'd love to hear from you.
I love that. All right, I'm Jill Conway. Thank you for listening to a show celebrating incredible women like Michelle. I hope you're inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. Your voice matters, and your story can help others. I hope you join me next time and share this podcast with a friend. Follow us on Instagram and go buy Michelle's book. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Jill. Bye now.
Bye-bye.